Schedule release day for the NHL, and we do already have our hands on the official schedule. For more on it, Paul Hamilton does have a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. It was confirmed yesterday, but a reminder, the season is going to open on the road at Columbus Thursday, October 1st, while the home opener is going to be Saturday, October 3rd against Chicago. Do stay tuned. We'll talk with Paul Hamilton at 4:30. Also announced yesterday and made official today, the contract renegotiation for Saints running back Alvin Kamara. His base salary is going to be $6 million, and it's a chance to make up to $8.5 million in incentives. We'll get more on the NFL. Sal Capaccio going to join the show in just a little bit at 3:30. And then stay tuned at 5:30. Brian Kozel is going to join the show. Day one of the British Open starting to wrap up here at Royal Birkdale. 26-year-old Jackson Suber does hold the solo lead at 5 under. Then in baseball, just one game tonight as the league does get back underway. The Phillies, they play host to the Mets. That one at 7:10. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for West New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I look like a delivery guy. I got this purple hat in the mail yesterday.
You're matchy.
And I got a purple shirt I'm seeing on the video now, and I look like I work somewhere. The purple shirt, I look like I should be driving a truck.
It's Mike Schopp.
Like Grimace.
Right.
Oh, Grimace doesn't wear a purple hat.
No, but
in fairness to Grimace.
But there's a lot of purple.
And the Bulldog.
I mean, I don't think I'm shaped entirely that similar to Grimace.
That's right. That's fair.
It's closer than I'd like, and the clothes could get you there.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I'm not body shaming Grimace. I'm just saying, they're a big thing.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Okay, well, no immediate follow-up on that, as Bulldog is again not here today. Watching the golf, I've been watching a few hours of it today, in and out of different other tasks. Quote, tasks. Well, who am I kidding? I've been sitting on the couch watching a lot of this golf tournament. I didn't get up before the sun came up, before the smoke came up. But, still, kind of a mostly lazy Thursday. And they're saying this McIlroy, Schauffele, Fitzpatrick group will be on the course in northwest England past 9 o'clock local time, which is 4 o'clock our time. So we still have another hour or so of this before it gets dark, I guess. This Fitzpatrick, a couple of bets I immediately regret. Although, I guess he could still win 1 or 2 over. Listen, I am a student of the school of John McEntee and golf etiquette. And it is especially not acceptable to never acknowledge the fans, especially when the fans are real. This guy cannot even do McIlroy does it now a little bit too often for my taste, for as renowned a player and as big a superstar as he is. But again, that little hand, that little wrist flick, when you don't bring it even above the belt, and it comes off more like shut up than it does thank you. Like, please. The dismissive sort of, all right, stop. At least come up here. At least come up to like the breastplate so that it looks like you care at all. Fitzpatrick, I think maybe Fitzpatrick's move, which is a non-move, is better than the other one, because the other one is more dismissive than anything else, whereas this Matt Fitzpatrick doesn't do anything. I mean, he's not like rolling in birdies today, but so what? If they're clapping for you, make it look like, in the slightest at least, that you can tell that there are people there who are cheering for you. Now, I was raised, unfortunately, in a golf environment where there were almost never any fans. Like, it was usually just going to play. Maybe you can relate to this. You go play golf. Nobody is really there to watch you. And then, I mean, I guess it's less important to wave to the imaginary fans. I mean, these people still take time out of their busy lives. They might even blow off work to go out there and watch you play golf. It seems like the least you can do is wave. Fitzpatrick, I kind of regret that. But again, if he wins, I'll take all that back. And then who will he actually acknowledge the fans if he wins the Open Championship? And then there's this Harrington. Would it have been a better a more lucrative payout yesterday when I put a $5 bonus bet. Honestly, that's all it was, all right? I said $10 on the show a few times. It turned into a $5 bonus bet, which is like a free, thanks for using our app. Here's $5, throw on anything you want. So I put that on Harrington, and it went to plus 100,000 on. Is he sick? Is there some reason why it was like the worst bet you could ever have made? Plus 100,000. I mean, $10 is 10 grand. So $5 is 5 grand if he wins the Open Championship. Well, he's in absolute last place. 80. Not even tied. Would it have been maybe bigger odds for this like raging hot seniors tour player who's won this tournament twice, including at that golf course, coming off the Senior Open win like 2 weeks ago? Would it have been a bigger payout to think that he would be in absolute last place after the first day than actually winning the event? I think it's not going to happen for multiple reasons, but for him to win, he'll have to shoot 64 tomorrow in a monsoon because everybody else is going to have to come back. He gets to like 4 over from 10 over, and the field moves the other way because they can't handle the wind or something. Then we're not still talking about winning the thing. He was never likely to do that, but I kind of wanted to do better than absolute last place after day one. It's not completely over yet. So friends and family today, although I guess I can't say family because Joe Cali is not here in the afternoon. Not literally family, but Sal, Paul, Brian, and in the middle of that, Rich Rebar, Lord Reeves, sharp football analysis. Rich is back with his annual statistical breakdown on the Bills and the outlook for 2026, which I can't get enough of, that kind of stuff. And Rich is great. Yesterday, we had Ryan Paganetti. I mean, he's absolutely taking over my Twitter feed with different interviews he's doing and different content. I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully you didn't lose sleep over finding out that the Bills ran 70 consecutive quarterback sneaks to the left side yesterday from Ryan. But, it's worked out pretty well. Not so much in that Chiefs game, although when we talked about that, Ryan's like, I think he made it. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. For me, I just don't tend to, whether that's the quarterback sneak in Kansas City or the Brandon Cooks play, I mean, I don't lose sleep over that stuff, but I think I would or I could if I really tried to get, like, is the word certitude on that? Like a feeling of, yes, I really do know what happened. Because most of these plays in football could be, debated. There obviously could be debated. You could argue for either side of that call, a lot of these. And a quarterback sneak where your guy dies under the pile is quintessentially one of those plays. And, so is Cooks because he has it. And you've all seen or even taken the screenshot of where he has the ball on the ground. Isn't that the end of it? No. But, good effort. And then is it an interception? That's what was called. All of it. So many of these goaltender interference, so many of these kind of plays. I'm not going to harp on replay again unless I'm, prompted later, which, that could happen. But I don't plan to do that just on my own here today to save you from it. But that's really at the heart of why it's so pointless, is because so many of these can be argued on either side. And why do we bother then? Why do we suck the life out of games intentionally and then have everybody involved in the broadcast get on board with it and never even suggest that this is a waste of time? Anyway, 716 day. I get it. July 16th, 716 day. A lot of people are donating money, which is great. I don't know that we're involved in it in any sort of official capacity. I haven't been told so. But I thought it was a way to bring up a conversation about the Bills and Sabres together. And what I thought about was how, this is the time of year where we might get into conversations like this that are broader. There's not a game to talk about. There's not a big trade or anything. You can sort of stretch out. And maybe often over the course of a summer or a year, we'll end up comparing the Bills and the Sabres. And, okay, well, just what does it look like put together? And it hit me that, thinking about this today, that this is one of the rare times when they're both good. I mean, how often in your lifetime have the Bills and Sabres both been good? Or even, like, really good? I mean, the Bills got to the, final 8 of the play. Is it even 8 anymore? Second round? Probably is. They get to the divisional round of the playoffs, and the Sabres get to the second round of the NHL playoffs. And how many times, I mean, I didn't look it up, but how often have they both been good at the same time? So this year in 716 Sports is a little different in that you have the Bills and Sabres both in pretty good positions. When it sort of lined up right. The Bills season ends in January, and there's a lot of bitterness and frustration, and it's repetitive and annoying, like just how this is 6 years in a row that they've lost in the second or third round. I mean, 7 years in a row that they've been to the playoffs and lost and not gotten to a Super Bowl yet, and hence the coaching change. So mid-January, the Bills lose to Denver, fire Sean McDermott, and embark on a new era, as it were. And the Sabres at that point, we all point to December 9th for them when they win in Edmonton. I think that's the date. Nobody is even interested in it then. Like it's not, it takes a while, just like a drought does. A drought takes a few years before you think of it as a drought. The Bills' playoff drought started in 2000. They had been in the playoffs, 10 of the last 12 years before that. And they weren't far away from making it in 2000. It's like there's no talk of a playoff drought. It's just they didn't make it. And then suddenly it's 2017, and they haven't made it since. Now it's a drought. I mean, that's full on. That's like record stuff. I think maybe it's like 5 years go by. I'm not sure if that's exactly how I looked at it in the Bills case, but a few years have to go by, and then you make a list around the league of teams that have been in a longer playoff drought than you, and it's not that many. You're like, okay, well, this is the new reality. So the Bills lose in Denver and fire Sean McDermott, and we're not in a good mood about them. And a lot of people, just locally, nationally, fans, not fans, are just sort of the talking point. The main talking point is, will they ever get there? It's not that the window is closed per se, but will they ever actually get there? Because this is a long time without doing so. And the Sabres thing is just starting. And then give that another month. Get that to the Olympics. That's about exactly, I mean, when did the Bills season end? Later in January, probably. But, the regular season doesn't end until almost mid-January anymore. Couple more weeks, Denver. Couple weeks after that, maybe 3, is the Olympic break. And by then, the Sabres had their 10-game winning streak. I mean, it wasn't exactly, as I think about it again, it wasn't exactly that we weren't ready for the Sabres thing by the time the Bills lost. But probably we were. But then it got really exciting. And by the Olympics, mid-February, the Sabres were a legit, fun, cool story. And, the Bills they just sort of left us wanting. And I think it was popular in those next couple of months when the Bills entered the background of this for the first time in a long time, that people wanted to say that the Sabres will win before the Bills do. Now, that didn't happen either. And what would you say to that right now? I think it's a pretty easy answer, which team I'd rather be. The Bills. And I think that that's an interesting question. Maybe a lot of you would say the Sabres instead. But both teams are contenders. By the betting odds, the Sabres are not well respected for whatever reason. It's a little bit confusing to me, and the Bills still are. But I think that there's something counterintuitive about that. Because I think maybe I would say that the Sabres have more good players proportionally than the Bills do. Like that the Sabres maybe have a better team, if that is based on the depth of your roster, the overall quality of it, etc. But the Bills have Josh Allen. And no player, not even a goalie in hockey, counts like the quarterback of an NFL team. Connor McDavid doesn't. Sidney Crosby, Dominic Hasek in his prime. Dominic Hasek in his prime, who was the best goaltender in the history of the NHL, got the Sabres to like the 7 seed. You know, like it's even then, it wasn't so pronounced how much that really means to your overall. They did make playoff runs. But I would have to say the Bills because Allen, as far as we know, is still Allen. He just turned 30. And it's almost like it's not fair. And I say that because we were living on the other side of that fence for a long time, where the Bills would have to lose to Tom Brady twice a year. Like, what do you do about this? I mean, if you remember, go back far enough, I wanted the Bills to draft 5 quarterbacks in every draft because what else matters? I'm not beating that guy until I get somebody that's even close to him, and I never had that until Allen. And when Allen showed up, Brady was getting old, and then the whole thing changed. I mean, Brady did go to Tampa and win again. It wasn't like he was done exactly in time with that. But, Allen put the Bills back on top or at or near the top. And that's really, it's a little bit disappointing if you try to analyze this stuff because it might be more interesting if you could go man for man and, position groups as perhaps useless, relatively useless as that might be when you're comparing from different sports. But in short, I think I've got a Sabres team that has a lot right. They've got good talent. They're young. They're deep. And if they end up getting it right in goal, either with their own guys or with Connor Hellebuck, I mean, that's a game changer if it's Hellebuck. And I think I would look at, depending on who they would have to give up, I think I would look at the Sabre roster and feel like, all right, well, that's pretty much all I can do. I mean, this team is on the floor. This team is ready to go, contend for a cup, and then you have to get lucky and you have to stay healthy and all those kinds of things. So I think they're close to, they've lost Tuck and they've lost Byram, and I think they've replaced Byram, but that's a little bit of a leap. And I don't think they really can sell that in terms of Tuck. Anyway, they're pretty complete. And I don't think I would call the Bills complete. In fact, here was Jeremy this morning referring to some expert ranking. Jeremy Fowler, was it? Like by position around the NFL. And the Bills have the number 1 quarterback and the number 7 running back and then a bunch of honorable mentions, if that, by position around the league. Like, that's different from the Sabres. The Sabres don't have the number 1 anything. Dahlin maybe comes closest. They don't have the number 1 anything. But even if they did, ask Edmonton, what do I win? If I had the number 1 player at any position in hockey, like what do I win? What I win is I have a chance to be good or great, but I can't assume that. It's not like football where having a top, if not the top quarterback, almost necessarily avails you to the playoffs, and then we'll see. It was a few years ago when, for some reason, I think of Joe Burrow for this. Like, what is the floor when you have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? I think maybe it was the year Burrow pulled a calf muscle at a practice in training camp or something, and there was some question about him. I don't know. For some reason, he comes to mind here. It doesn't have to be about him. What is your worst case scenario, record-wise, if you have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? I feel like it's 500. I think that's the worst. If you suffer all the one-score game luck on the wrong side, turnovers work against you, injuries work against you to players at other positions. Like, really, and we've had this at times with the Bills. If the Bills lost their 5th through 10th players by talent, take Madden ratings. If they lost guys 5 through 10 on the roster to long-term injuries, would it do anything to their expectations? I mean, externally, would it do anything? If they had to play backups at right tackle at, wide receiver 1, edge, safety. I mean, we've lived this. They've had times where they were really run down in terms of injuries, and the seasons have all been pretty much the same. And, accounting for variance and, again, the one-score game stuff and everything like that. So it's not as interesting as it could be when you have a sport where one player has so much weight over how this is all going to go. But I think if the Bills had every other problem this year besides an Allen injury, if Allen plays every game again, how are they worse than 500? I know there are 17 games. What's 8-1? There are ties. How are they worse than 500 if that happens? Baltimore has actually experienced this, and the Bills have not. Baltimore has had seasons like last year where they lost Lamar Jackson for a chunk of games, and they ended up like 8-9, 9-8, whatever it ended up being that they were. I guess maybe Kansas City is relevant here because they went 6-11, and Mahomes played most of the year. So maybe I have to recalibrate and say, well, a record like that is possible. It happened, and this is important to include in this. Like, I'm not trying to wiggle away, but it happened that you got Denver, you got the Chargers, you got Jacksonville, you got Houston again, New England. You had some new players in the conference that pushed, teams like the Chiefs when they were down further, or Cincinnati. And Cincinnati might have gone 6-11 too. Anyway, it's a rare time to have on 716 Day both the Bills and Sabres be, in the conversation for championships. And, I'd take either myself. I'd take one. Not trying to be too greedy about it. But I think the Bills are the answer to the question of who's closer. But I also think the Sabres have done a better job whether it's a job they've done or it's just sort of how it's happened. I think the Sabres have a better overall team. But the Bills have one guy, and this has been true for most of the last 5 years. The Bills have one guy who has so much power over the outcome of seasons and games that it really doesn't make it a fair fight. The Bills' drought, that was 17 years. Talking to Rich Rebar later from Warren Sharp's site, Sharp Football Analysis, Warren today brought back out the droughts of teams since their last playoff win. You know what's amazing? Maybe you already know this, but so the Jets have the longest playoff appearance drought in the NFL, 15 years. They and the Sabres were aligned until the Sabres finally ended theirs. The Jets did not. So the Jets have gone 15 years since being in the playoffs. They won maybe even 2 games, 2010, the last year they were in. They have won a playoff game 10 years more recently than Miami has. How about that? Miami is at 25 years since a playoff win anywhere at all. They've been in a few times, not even that many, as you would know, but they have not won a playoff game in 25 years. The Raiders are, by the way, close to that. They're at 23. Their last playoff win would have been, I remember where I was. I was in San Diego. It was the week of our trip there for the Super Bowl against Tampa. That AFC Championship, I think, is their last playoff win. Right at the year after Tuck Rule, the Raiders. So that's a long time. So nothing. 25 years since Miami's last playoff win, 23 since Vegas's, the Raiders, they weren't in Vegas, and then 15 since the Jets. Some more football with Sal Capaccio coming up next. Rich Rebar from Sharp Football Analysis at 4, digging into some Bills projections for the upcoming season. Paul Hamilton with the schedule out at 4:30, then 5:30 as yesterday. Brian Koziol, day 1 of the Open Championship. No Bulldog until Monday. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. This is WGR.
For more comfort, Now's the perfect time to make yourself comfortable with a new electric heating and cooling system from Belknap.
In Western New York, summer and winter bring extreme temperature conditions. Make yourself comfortable with Mitsubishi electric heat pumps, designed to keep your home cool in the summer and warm in the winter, no matter how hot or cold it gets outside. Call Belknap today to learn more.
I'm Gary Garfalo, president of Belknap. We work on your schedule. We don't charge more for weekends and evenings. That's why we say,
give Belknap a ring.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of love.
What is actually like the quintessential drought category? Is it not making the playoffs? Is it not winning in the playoffs? Is it something else? I mean, it can't be like not winning a Super Bowl, because that's, here I am saying this, too hard. But what is I think like making the playoffs, for the Sabres at least, if not the Bills, was plenty good enough. Like, just how do you not make the playoffs for so long in a league where such a high percentage of teams do? But as Sal Capaccio joins me here on the Wester Hotline, Sal, I mean, for Miami to go 25 years and counting since a single playoff win, I mean, that's not even high def. I mean, the Jets have a playoff win 10 years more recent than the Dolphins do.
Right.
I don't know. You have a thought?
I'm with you. I mean, I think it rivals kind of the Sabres not making it for as long as they did in a league where you should make it. You know what I mean? The NHL. It's different than the NFL. And it just never happened. I think that how do you not get a win? And it's not like they haven't been there, right? They've made the playoffs. They've lost every time they've been there. I mean, I'll be honest with you, though. I think it's more astounding to me to want to talk about droughts. What is the last time a Pittsburgh team won a playoff game or a series?
Oh, do you know?
I mean, think it's been
the Pirates won a one-game playoff with McCutcheon. Like, I don't know if that was more than 10 years ago, but the Steelers are about a decade.
I think it's 2016, last time the Steelers won.
Okay.
I mean, it's been a decade since I think any of their teams won a playoff game or round.
Yeah, and the Penguins made it this year after a non-playoff drought, but then went right out this year. So, and they have 3 teams, Sal. It's not even fair.
Right. So, well, what is the Penguins? When did so they didn't win a round either in the last? I mean,
no, Philadelphia busted on. They had not been to the playoffs for a few years before that. Before this year.
Okay, first round, qualifying round, first round. Yeah, there you go. Maybe 17-18. I lost in the second round. That was it. The playoffs. The Penguins in 17-18, I think, is the answer to this, which is crazy. I mean, but you're right. I don't know, Mike. It's wild to think about these droughts, right? And I didn't know what we were talking about. I hadn't been listening. Someone tweeted, and I knew there was something about this because someone tweeted at me the stat that I had mentioned to you guys, that the Oilers have not won their division, Edmonton Oilers, since the 80s, which is astounding to me.
I love that. So whose drought is worse? The Jets not making the playoffs in 15 years, or the Dolphins not winning a playoff game in 25?
Did you throw this out yet to social media?
No. Warren had a tweet today ranking like the number of teams, like the Bills, that have 0 years since they won a playoff game. I mean, the Bills having a streak of 6 years in a row with at least one playoff win is pretty good. I know we're all, sort of focused instead on their losses, but that's a pretty good run for anybody.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think the Dolphins streak is worse. I mean, it's a quarter century.
Yeah. That 10 years difference is a lot. I think I agree. Jay Fiedler, Lamar Smith, Jimmy Johnson, the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game was a kind of a famous game against Indianapolis. Overtime.
Yep.
200-yard rusher. That's the last time they did it. Before Peyton Manning and the Colts were anything. Peyton Manning! Anyway, has the show ever sounded older? Sal, who's closer, who's in better shape, or however you want to put it into context, on this 7-1-6 day? Since you said you haven't been listening today, I'll put this right to you. The Bills or the Sabres?
Okay.
Like, which team is in better position to win?
This year?
Yeah. Next. Soon.
Well, the reason I say that is because, I mean, I really like the Sabres outlook, long term, and I think that they'll be kind of in the mix here for a while, but I still think the Bills, I mean, they still have Josh Allen, and they're a Super Bowl contender. I'm not sure we could say the Sabres are a Stanley Cup contender yet. They should make the playoffs still, and maybe they get to another round, and eventually, I mean, yeah, you could work yourself there. I'm not saying you can't. I get it. But I don't think they're any better on paper than they were when they just lost in Game 7 against the Canadiens. We'll see what happens with Hellebuck and all that. I know what the Bills are. The Bills are a team with an MVP-level quarterback who've had all this consistency and have an opportunity again to win their division and win their conference.
Right. The Bills are my answer too, easily. What is the value of if you had the best player in hockey at whatever position you want? What does that add to your team in terms of like making it a championship contender? It's not nothing. I mean, it's obviously better than not having that player. But what Allen does for the Bills and what all the top quarterbacks do for their respective teams is basically almost a free ticket to the postseason.
That's correct.
You know?
It's the most important position to have this conversation about.
By far.
Like, I look, I think there's an old school way of looking at hockey. You got to have great goaltending. I don't believe that. Look at the two teams in the Stanley Cup this year. What I believe is you just can't have bad goaltending. You don't have to have great goaltending to win a Stanley Cup. You just can't have bad goaltending to win a Stanley Cup. So it is not equal to compare quarterbacks and goaltenders in this regard. But you better have a really damn good quarterback, if not a great quarterback, to contend for a Super Bowl. Can it happen without one? Sure. A confluence of events, that can happen. And even Sam Darnold, I mean, he was really, really good last year. Like MVP consideration type of good. Whatever else you think about him. But generally, you need an upper-level quarterback. You don't have to have that in hockey. Now, I think we're also seeing that as great as McDavid is, it just like you're not – there's ways – these guys play how many minutes a night, right? And you're not controlling – the game all the time with the ball or the puck on your stick in your hands and all of that. It's just not anything like quarterback.
Right. By the way, since you mentioned Darnold, let me ask you this. I was talking to Matt Collar yesterday on his Purple Insider podcast, and he's ready for Vikings-Bills in midseason, that Monday night game in Minnesota. He might have called it something like their game of the year, just for marquee value. You and I maybe have talked about this in the past. Like last year would have been the time to do it, but now we have Darnold moving to Seattle and winning a championship. Should Minnesota, would you have said a year ago that Minnesota should have kept him?
Yeah, I probably did say that, but I understood why they would make the decision based on how their actions with McCarthy, right? You get that. I mean, they wanted that to happen. I know what McCarthy missed the year, though, so even then you could get your way to it. I just think to me, the process was just so flawed. But once you had the flawed process, I think you eventually had to do that anyway. They just didn't know what they had originally and kind of rushed the situation. I don't think they had to do it. To me, like Minnesota is a team right now that is still, hey, what do we looks like the roster's pretty good. It should have been better. It's not. We screwed up the quarterback. They just fired their GM after the season, but before the draft. They had their scouts and their front office run the draft. I mean, they're in all sorts of ways, and it all goes back to me, to that decision and process, which was flawed, to basically just rush J.J. McCarthy on the field.
Yeah, there's a really good lesson, I think, in the Darnold thing, and I'm a very hard sell on this. It's almost like Flutie and Johnson was, just like, all right, well, I've got a guy that I made the playoffs with. It's okay, pretty good. But I want to be better than that. With Darnold, you had a certain track record that was, mixed to be kind. But then you have the 2024 season where they win 14 games. It ends kind of tragically. Like they had a couple of bad losses at the end, and Darnold reminded everybody about how he was damaged goods in the first place. But I never would have done it. But it would have been reasonable to say, why not just keep going with him? 14-3 is 14-3. Why the devil why not just try this again and figure out some other outcome for J.J. McCarthy? We don't have to do that. But I always am on the other side of those where, no, first-round pick, I want a franchise quarterback. I don't know if I trust the Darnold thing. I would have done what the Vikings did. And, man, it went pretty badly.
No, right, but I don't know if you would have done it because you had a reason to. Like, it would have been kind of malpractice probably to think, well, we can't do this. We just drafted this kid, right? I think that's the reason. I think they put themselves in a really tough spot.
Yeah, and I didn't get to look at his practices or anything. He was injured anyway.
Right.
Sure. But sight unseen, I would have done what they did. And they did win their last 5 games, by the way, Minnesota. And who knows, maybe with Kyler Murray, it'll work out. Do you like him for them?
I like Kyler Murray as a player. I do. I think he offers a little bit of a different dimension that you get from, most quarterbacks. He's able to run, obviously. I think there's a ceiling with him. They'll probably, be in better hands this year. I just don't know how much better.
Right. Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off today. All right, enough about the Vikings. That's on me. Ian Hartitz had a tweet today about Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. And some interesting numbers basically implying careful assuming that Ray Davis is the handcuff. In fantasy, most drafts, Ray Davis goes. I mean, pretty late, but I think most people see him as the backup to James Cook, as the handcuff. But Ty Johnson, as you well know, had a role, plays on third down. An astute listener pointed out that some of the imbalance in terms of carries inside the 5 traces to Week 18. They gave him 3 in a row in that Jet game, Johnson, and it didn't work out. He didn't score, but maybe he was going for an incentive. He already had 2 touchdowns in the game. So maybe that's a little bit deceiving what the numbers are. But, I mean, Ray Davis, Sal, went to kickoff return, ended up first-team All-Pro at that position. How much of that for you, or how it played out for you, was that Sean McDermott and his staff just like, all right, this is working with Davis on kickoff. Let's just do that and maybe take some running back responsibility off his plate because of the kickoff return role. And, even if that doesn't have to be correct. If it is or it isn't, it's Joe Brady now, and I wonder, what do you think they'll do about running backs behind Cook?
But, Davis didn't have, I have to go back and look. To my memory, I could be wrong on this. To my memory, I don't think Davis was, kind of taken out of some role because he started being a really good kick return, because that didn't happen until several weeks in.
He also, in that same aforementioned Week 18, had 130 yards or something. He was the starting running back that day, too.
Yeah, so I don't think it was, we got to take some off his plate, because I don't think he had it on his plate anyway, to be honest with you, to start. To me, it was probably a Joe Brady decision, collective decision, and they like Ty Johnson a lot. He's a good pass blocking back, and he's a good pass catching back, so it makes sense to have him in on third down. I think he fits there. I've believed coming into this year that Ray Davis will get an uptick, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of similar in what they do. Now, I do think, though, because Ray Davis has become this really good kick returner for them, that they'll want to be mindful of that. And that's going to be situational to me. We're going to need him, for what, whenever on touches, this is a team that we can take advantage of special teams. Let's make sure we're getting Ray involved. So that could fluctuate from week to week. I can't imagine the new special teams coordinator, Jeff Rodgers, doesn't walk into Joe Brady's office and go, hey, I need that guy on the field for kick returns. Look what he's done. And that probably gets you a little bit to a spot of, okay, so how much do we really want to kind of have him on the field on offense all the time?
Were you happen to be listening yesterday when our guest, Ryan Paganetti, mentioned the stuff about the Bills and quarterback sneaks?
I was not listening, no.
So I know you know this at least to a large extent, if not the fullest. From Week 10 in 2022 through the AFC Championship loss in Kansas City in 2024, the Bills ran 70 quarterback sneaks all to the left.
Wow.
I mean, the Chiefs called out the Bills after that game. There was that famous 4th and 1 stop.
Sure.
And
they knew it was coming.
We know they always go to the left, and maybe Ryan referenced a quote from one of their players, we've seen them do this 12 times in a row, and Ryan's actually it's 70. And I don't know how different last year was, but I just thought that was insane because it almost always worked anyway. So as predictable as they might have seemed, they weren't being stopped.
Right. I mean, it's I know that back in the 90s, the Bills didn't run a lot of plays. They had only a certain number of plays. We're because they work and you can't stop them. It reminds me of the movie, what's the movie with Denzel Washington? The football movie. I can't think of it on the top
Remember
of my
the
head
Titans?
Now. Thank you. Remember the Titans. And he says, yeah, it's like Novocaine, right? Give it time, it'll work, but you won't have a limited what you do, but you stick to the process of what you're doing. Now, it's not the exact same thing, but look, if it's working, why not do it? Because here's what I mean. If you're running those and you've done 50 in a row and they pretty much have been 49 out of 50, and then you run one to the right and you miss, there are many people saying, why the hell didn't you run to the left? You're 49 out of 50.
You'd like the conversation, if you can find it, from yesterday with Ryan Paganetti. He's on the headset with the Eagles when they call the Philly special. That's how he got his start. He's worked as an analytics director for Jacksonville and Vegas, and now he's building out a social media thing and seems to be really successful. A lot of interesting stories and little nuggets from Ryan yesterday.
That's cool.
DJ Moore. So last thing, Sal, some of the prop bets are coming out. And I know we'll go back and forth on DJ Moore quite a bit here this summer. 65.5 catches, 800.5 yards, 5.5 touchdowns. Do you have sort of an instinct when it comes to these numbers in him?
Mike, it is so funny. You did it again.
I did it again. You were just talking about this?
We had a podcast the other day where we went over like some prop numbers for the Bills, and this was one of them. And Bove was very quick to kind of be like, oh, I'm going over on DJ Moore's receiving yards. Like I didn't point out this one where like the question was from a listener, is there a prop bet you really like? And that was the one he identified and said, I like that for the prop bet. Like I would go over DJ Moore. So he said, he asked me, what do you think his over under is? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe just over 1,000. I'm thinking it's probably too high, but I thought it could be like in the high 900s. He's like, no, it's, 8, whatever you said there. And he's
800.5.
Yeah. And he said he's got to go over that, right? So it feels to me like he should. He really does. So I would think I would like that. And one point Matt made, which he's right, DJ Moore, for the most part, has been available. He plays.
He does.
Right? A lot of what we talk about here in the NFL with all of these things has to do with missing time, with injuries. Knock on some wood here if you're nearby, folks, but DJ Moore has played every single game over the last 5 seasons. So, I mean, like, that will help him.
I don't think any of the wood in this studio is wood. Maybe this. Does that sound like wood? This is not wood. This could be wood. Well,
I can't tell. It all sounds the same to me from here.
It all sounds the same. Sal, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Sal Capaccio, Western Hotline. His appearance is brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? More on the Bills, their outlook, and numbers with Rich Rebar, Lord Reeves, if you will, coming up in about 15 minutes. I'm Mike Schopp. This is WGR. A quick congratulations to a man that I know a little bit well, not real close, but I've gotten to know in the last year or so, Mark Steenhouse, longtime Bandit star, who today was elected to the National Lacrosse League Hall of Fame. I know Mark through his coaching in St. Catharines. My son played for him last year on his box lacrosse team. His son, I mean, I think he has maybe more than one, but Reef, super nice player. One of these kids that when all the other guys on the team are just sort of walking around, strutting around the facility with their sticks, there's Reef just banging balls off the wall. Like, I never really got to know him. I mean, young guy, but big fan of his and his dad's. And I'm sure Bandits fans have a lot of fond memories of Mark. So congrats to him. National Lacrosse League, soon-to-be Hall of Famer. Digging in on next year's Bills with Rich Rebar next.
Schedule release day in the NHL, and we already do have our hands on next year's schedule. Paul Hamilton has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com, for more. And a reminder, it was announced yesterday, but again, the season is going to open up on the road at Columbus on Thursday, October 1st. And then the home opener will be later that week, Saturday, October 3rd, against Chicago. Do stay tuned. Paul will also join the show at 4:30. Also announced yesterday, but details have emerged today, the contract restructuring for Saints running back Alvin Kamara. Base salary is $6 million with a chance to make $8.5 million in incentives. And then stay tuned, coming up at 5:30. Brian Koziel going to join the show. Day one of the British Open is done at Royal Birkdale. 26-year-old Jackson Suber, in his Open debut, does hold the solo lead at 5 under. Then in baseball, just one game tonight as the league does get slowly back underway. Phillies play host to the Mets at 7:10. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp.
Hey, put a little. I never get this line out the first time. It's not even good. Hey, put a little bit more in there, cowboy.
And the Bulldog.
What's your degree in?
Kicking ass and taking names.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
How many stupid shows are you watching? I try to limit my number to 0. Again, subjective, relative terms, stupid shows. I try to limit my number to 0, but I have gotten pretty almost all the way in on the Traitors. And there isn't a new season that I know of right now. But on ADP Chasing Tuesday night, I mentioned, Matt Harmon was on. He mentioned Love Island. I'm like, I have not seen Love Island. Thank God, right? Like, I'm way too above that. I don't know if I'm highbrow, but I'm not. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you really what it is, but just the name Love Island sounds like I don't need to be watching that. But I do watch the Traitors, and then I said to our colleague Jacob Sanderson, who lives in Vancouver, I said, I'm even watching the Traitors Canada. And he said, you're more Canadiana than I am, which I don't know if I want to say yes to that or agree to that or not, but Traitors Canada Season 2. Good chance. That's how exciting my life is, that before I go to sleep tonight, I'll be catching up on that. The Traitors Canada Season 2. How exciting is my life? My life is very exciting right now. Rich Rebar is on the West Her hotline. Lord Reeves, Your Majesty, sharp football analysis. I told Warren that you were going to be on today. No pressure or anything, but I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Rich has his part in the sharp football preview book and some Bills analysis that we'll talk about here today. Rich, how have you been?
I'm doing great, Mike. It's great to talk to you. And, listen, it's always fun talking about the Bills, too, who have been a really fun, fantasy football adjacent team, for so many years.
Yes, I suppose. I mean, I've got 25 to 30 years in it, so I may be a little bit numb, but I agree with you. It's certainly in this era it is in terms of their success and their fantasy output as well. Well, let's start with actually, let me just get an overview from you, Rich. I mean, it's mostly the same offense. A couple of things that are different. Of course, the offensive coordinator is now the head coach, and I'd like your opinion on that. And then the addition of DJ Moore, which we'll get to. Is it normal when a team promotes its offensive coordinator to think it'll be pretty much the same in terms of scheme and output as the year prior, or is it maybe more subtle than that or nuanced?
Yeah, they're kind of an interesting team, right? Because, when they made the change and, promoted Joe Brady even to offensive coordinator that year, it was kind of, leading into that, it was kind of like, all right, is Ken Dorsey running the football enough to where I want him to under Sean McDermott, right? And then, how much influence have we seen, the past, 3.5 years of, Buffalo being a little bit more conservative because of that influence? How much of it was the lack of, kind of maybe not having a lead wide receiver since the departure of Stephon Diggs? And, obviously the strength of their team outright has just been the offensive line, Josh Allen, and the running backs. So do we see some like kind of, moving around this year? Obviously, you lose a starting offensive lineman, you add DJ Moore. Hopefully, Dalton Kincaid is healthier, and him getting stronger. A lot of times we talk about these guys in the offseason, like best shape of your life season, and we kind of fluff it off. We've heard it so many times, but I actually do think for a guy like Dalton Kincaid, it does matter that he's getting stronger, and because of how the limitations he's had in the run game, and the fact that he's been so banged up. So he's one guy I'm kind of looking at it like you probably needed to put some weight on.
Interesting. Two things on that. One is they did sing the same song a year ago.
I know.
And I don't know where it got us. And my hesitation on that has always been that Dawson Knox still exists, right? I mean, that's a core player who's got a contract. And I think to have Kincaid evolve to a point where he's more a part of their run offense, I think probably eliminates Knox, no?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you just look at their splits last year. They only ran the ball 28.5% of the time on the snaps Kincaid was on the field. When Dawson Knox was on the field, it was 57%. So it's not just that this player is not being involved in a run game at all. It's just that he offers none of that two-way versatility. So if he can just kind of make that like closer to like 35-40% and just not be like at the 28%, that actually is like a big boon for him. So we just need him running more actual routes than he has over the course of his career. He's never going to be like a full-time player because he's still going to be limited in terms of that capacity in the run game. And Dawson Knox also is so good in that area, but like we just need more than him being at like the 64% team dropback rate that he's been his 3 years in the NFL.
Holy cow, yes, in terms of fantasy. If you knew that his snap share even was going to double, which is not, impossible. I mean, well, I don't think it's going to happen, but like that's something numerically that's possible, then you could, I mean, he's always at the top of the list, Rich, in terms of like targets per route run, right? Like when he does get down the field, he gets the ball.
Yeah, he's at high utilization the past 2 years. It's just that one, he's been banged up, and two, he doesn't play inline tight end and on a team that has run the football at a higher rate in the NFL, not just through game script, but accounting for game script. It's just been the strength of their team. So it's going to be really interesting to see, what wrinkles, Joe Brady and Pete Carmichael have compared to what they were running the past, 3.5 years here.
Let's get back to looking at the Bills and the league here from a sort of a macro viewpoint. So the Bills have had this success in the run game. James Cook leading the league in touchdowns 2 years ago, leading the league in yards last year. I mean, what a story. And that is in line, I think you would say, with league trends, that not, being the leader in these categories, but just sort of a more run-oriented approach. This is generally the trend around the league. Tell me more in detail about that, if you can, and whether or not you think we're still going in that direction.
Yeah, sure. And I have a full-on article that's just, open on the site for anyone to check out that kind of talks about the league infrastructure right now and where we are. And what we've seen as we've come out of like that COVID-influenced 2020 season where there was just an offensive spikes across the board. There were no fans in the stands. They actually didn't call holding penalties at all that year. But we've seen like this little bit of a reversion to where we've been more in like a defensive meta, and the offenses have slowly come out of that these past 2 years, not just based on the kickoff rules, but they've kind of found that the way to attack these like Vic Fangio quarter-based style too high defenses is to play heavier personnel, because it gives them the option to have the kind of their cake and eat it too, right? Like if you're going to play sub packages, which obviously, Bills fans know that's Sean McDermott's MO, big nickel. If you're going to play sub packages against these heavy sets, like you better be able to stop the run. And if you can't, then you're going to have to be forced to go into base personnel. And then now teams are using that base personnel. The defenses want to match their heavier tight end sets, and they want to throw the football and create explosives out of that. That was obviously the Rams were like a big team that kind of made their way last year and brought this to light. But this has been an ongoing trend the past, 2 years, 3 years really, that we've started to see fewer three wide receiver sets, more multiple tight end sets, a lot more sets even with six linemen on the field. And that's not all plays. We're talking passing plays. This is where they want to create the explosives and get those mismatches. So the Bills are a team that's obviously suited to play this way because we just really ran down the nuances that Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid have paired on the field. Like you look at a team like the Bears or Cole Kmet and Colson Loveland, they traded DJ Moore to the Bills and they never directly replaced DJ Moore because this is their intent to kind of go into this direction this offseason. Now, a lot of teams are going to probably copy this to a degree to where they shouldn't. We've seen the Jacksonville Jaguars draft, 2 tight ends, Nate Burkhardt in the second round. But, like, they're a team that kind of showed, like, 11 personnel was their better personnel last year. Like, they shouldn't really be swerving into this. The Texans are another team, like, with they draft, Max Klein. But, like, hey, their wide receiver depth is better suited this way. The Bills are a team we're still going to see play a lot of multiple tight ends at a high rate of the league and some 3 tight end stuff as Jackson Hawes, goes into year 2 as well. Absolute demon in the run game too. So I think we're going to see some Jackson Hawes in the run game as well. But definitely check out the full article on the site. It kind of breaks down all the league trends in general in getting defenses, the counterpunch offenses are finding and trying to play this cat and mouse game, and getting these defenses to play these sub packages and come out of nickel.
SharpFootballAnalysis.com. Rich Rebar, my guest. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off today. How important a variable, Rich, is a running back who can pass block in what determines whether a team is better off in 11 or needs 2 tight ends? Like you say how Jacksonville was better in 11 or Houston. What is that mostly? Is that personnel? Is that quarterback? Is that scheme?
It's kind of a marriage of all things. I mean, we've seen in just terms of backfield in general, we've seen like so many viable running backs now that where the league's become compartmentalized, where we've just seen guys come in for a pass catching role or be the guy that's going to just be in to pass block and not really get touches or design touches in the offense. But if you look at Jacksonville, like as an example of why I believe that they're better in terms of 11 personnel, we saw the sliding doors last year when Travis Hunter was injured after that London game and Brian Thomas was banged up. It forced this domino effect of where they acquired Jacoby Myers. They're then forced to thrust Parker Washington into this role in the offense. At that point in the season, Parker Washington had 17 catches. And it also allowed Brian Thomas to move out to X wide receiver, those 2 other dominoes falling. And the offense really hit his stride. And that's why, the final 10 games of the season after that game in London, they had the largest point differential in the NFL. I mean, you saw in the playoff game, like they had opportunities to really push the Bills. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't slide short on that 1 4th down to start that game, like that game could be in a different state.
That's the play. That was the play. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think they're just better suited not to swerve into this. Obviously, their backfield's kind of messy, losing Travis Etienne or Achan or whatever we're supposed to refer to him as now. And then they didn't really upgrade their offensive line, which has a lot of question marks as well. So that's why I say, like, when you look at their personnel, I just think they're better suited to play 11. And that's not necessarily, the Bills where they are right now. But getting DJ Moore gives them a little bit more flexibility than they at least have had in that capacity in recent years.
All right, Rich, let's talk about him. So the Bills paid a big price. This comes in the wake of a couple of years, if not longer, of real disenchantment around here about their weapons. And, I mean, we're kind of like the home office for belly aching, well, in general, but also about, what the Bills don't have. And now it's DJ Moore, who is somewhat of a polarizing player, I think. I'm in the fantasy circles, as I think and nobody seems to like him over there. I don't know, like he's wide receiver 27, and I don't fully get it. Like, is he too old? Is he just not that good? Excuses about his quarterback play over the years have always been made. Where are you on Moore? How good of an idea is this?
I mean, for me, from like a actual Bills organizational stance, what they paid, it's really tough to say like I would have paid this iron price. But from me just being a fantasy gamer and analyzing fantasy football, like this offers a tremendous buying point, right? Because we know one thing that from a fantasy football stance that happens more so I think than other fantasy sports is gamers tend to price in like what has happened even most recently or beforehand and just more into the price point. So you look at DJ Moore over the course of his career, a lot of gamers will say like there's been excitement about him before and he hasn't paid off. Why would I invest now, right? You see this with some other guys across the league, like Christian Watson is a great example of this too, like has just a really strong wealth of opportunity here and arrows pointing all the way up, but people are like, well, he's never played a full season yet. Like, why would I think this year is going to be a full season? So I do think that there's a great buying point on DJ Moore. I think there are a lot of pros here in terms of just maybe the Bills get more out of kind of his mercurial attitude that he had the past couple of years. We know he didn't like his role in the Chicago offense with all the stuff near the line of scrimmage. He openly talked about this with a guy like Matt Harmon, who you work with as well. But we've seen that Allen hasn't had a future wide receiver one since Stephon Diggs. But when you look at the Bills, anytime they're pushed to throw, and this is one of the things that kind of frustrates us to a degree from a fan stance about how the Bills have operated at the end of the McDermott era, is that even when they didn't have any of these guys that you believed in on offense outside of maybe Dalton Kincaid, when the Bills have to throw the football, they're really good at throwing the football because 17 is excellent. Even last year, they're 7th in the NFL in success rate on passing plays. They were 8th in passing plays that gained 10 or more yards. They were 3rd in passing plays that gained 20 or more yards. And that's with, at the end of the year, throwing guys like Brandon Cooks, right? Like relying on him in the most pivotal games of the season. Now they're getting a guy that actually has, talent, no matter how you feel about where the ceiling of that talent lies. So we're going to see DJ Moore just have opportunity attached to the best quarterback that he's played to in his career. Even with the growth of Caleb Williams, last year, he still was a guy that was extremely volatile throwing to wide receivers. He had one of the highest inaccurate target rates in the NFL. Josh Allen even throwing to these guys that maybe we would say aren't good separators or aren't good players in their own level, like he's 8th in the NFL in this. So, like, all these things are just big pros for DJ Moore. And then if by just any chance the Bills do open this thing up a little bit more, like they're going to be too good of a real team, I think, to just like fully swerve into be like a top 10 pass rate team. But when you look at what the Bills have done historically under Josh Allen, when they play big games and teams can push them, they make the plane out of 17, and that's when you see, them kind of swerve into him. And the Bills, they face, look at their schedule. I mean, they have games against the Lions, the Chargers, the Rams, the Ravens. They play the Patriots twice, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Packers, the Bears, the Broncos. Like, these are teams that can push them into competitive games with upside. And over the past 6 seasons, when Buffalo has been a favorite of 3 or fewer points or an outright underdog, I mean, Josh Allen averages 25 fantasy points per game. In games decided by a field goal or less in any direction, he averages 24.8 points per game. Like, those points are going to someone. Like, they're going to go to a player, and it's going to be the guy that we're going to say is going to be on the field in this full rotation of wide receivers around him. So he's the one receiver that we say is going to be locked in. Denver's done this with Cortland Sutton the last couple of years, and it'll change now with the addition of Jalen Waddle, where they just have one guy that basically plays on like 80 to 90% of all the dropbacks, and they just rotate in guys around him. So like Troy Franklin, Little Jordan Humphrey, Marvin Mims. The Bills are going to operate in that same capacity. It's going to be DJ Moore on the field. He was on the field for 86% of the Bears dropbacks last year. So we're going to see something similar with the Bills this year. And I just want to bet on a guy that's going to be on the field that much with talent attached to Josh Allen.
Really good. DJ Moore is on the field for 86% of the Bears' plays, and the Bears were pretty hot, and he caught 50 passes because of all these other circumstances, right? Like you talked about them before, maybe going to more of a 12-look Komet with Colston Loveland, who I think led them in catches last year. So Rich Rebar, my guest on the West Shore Hotline. Rich, what about James Cook? Looking back first, what have you made of these last 2 years? Were you lucky enough to be in on Cook, where I wasn't these last couple of years, with the big numbers? Now in fantasy, he's a first-round pick usually. Do you see more of the same?
I actually think I'm a little more excited about him. Obviously, the one thing that we have looming over James Cook is, he did have, counting the playoffs, 385 total touches. Only Christian McCaffrey had more. A lot of those were rushing attempts too, because, obviously we're going to get into it, but he's been a guy I think we can argue has been underused in the passing game. So hopefully he's going to shed some of that, just like the banging on the rushing attempt stuff and get a little bit more involved in the pass game. But just from like a pie in the sky number, like typically guys that have this many touches, you have to be a little wary of the year. There's historically been a drop off, not always. But this is a guy, when you look at the way he's produced for fantasy football, has been kind of roadblocked a little bit, obviously, by Josh Allen near the goal line, and he hasn't really caught passes. I mean, last year he was on the field for only 43% of the Buffalo passing plays. It was 15th at the position. He only averaged 2 catches per game, but coming into the NFL, like this was his calling card. Like, he was kind of one of these tweener backs, 200, 210 pounds, but was really great in the pass game and explosive as a rusher. We've had the explosion as a rusher, and he's been really great in fantasy football, even in these full PPR formats. The last 2 years, he's been a top 13 scorer in 20 of his 33 games the past 2 years. Only Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs have more. And that's while he has been kind of had a guy cutting into his touchdown production, even though he still scores touchdowns, and not catching any passes. we get this guy access to more receptions. Like, I mean, I think he can compete with those guys at the top of the league. I think he is a player of the same archetype of a Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, if he was to be awarded that opportunity. If the Buffalo Bills would actually swerve into utilizing him like that, I think he could perform like that. We just need to see what Pete Carmichael adds in terms of, getting him involved. How he's going to follow through on all these whispers we've heard all offseason about getting him involved in the pass game. But when they have thrown to him, he's been a hyper-effective back. I know a lot of, Bills fans will think about like that year one. He dropped a couple wheel routes, put some balls on the ground that would, kind of maybe impacted his role. But, like, this is still a player that when he catches the football, nine yards per catch over his career, like, this is a guy that adds explosive plays whenever he touches the football. I would love to see him and the upside he could bring if he just gets access to more utility in the passing game.
28 rushing touchdowns the last 2 years for James Cook. Josh Allen, 26 on the same team. And Allen, as I constantly obsess over, is closing in on the all-time greats in that statistic. Rushing 41, I think, the last 3 years. Regular season only. Incredible. Rich, after Cook, Moore, even Shakir and Kincaid, I think we can just sort of skip Shakir here because there's a certain kind of like really narrow range where he usually comes in statistically. Is there anybody else you like? I mean, do you have the light on for Keon Coleman? Is there somebody else here? Skylar Bell as a rookie? Is there somebody else here you might be well drafting even or just sort of optimistic for?
No, not really. Not the cold water. Because I just believe they're going to play all these guys. Obviously, we know Shakir's role, right? Like Shakir is going to be when they play 11 personnel. He's going to be the guy that comes in on as the slot receiver. We've never really seen him play in 1 to 2 wide receiver sets. I don't believe that that's going to really change this year. I do like Skylar Bell as a prospect. I just don't know how many, year one snaps he'll get, especially because there is some – it's funny, one of the comps I had to him coming into the NFL was Khalil Shakir, and he ends up on the roster with Khalil Shakir, unfortunately. And you still have Josh Palmer and Keon Coleman are guys I believe are going to run a lot of these, like, I call them exercise routes, the guys getting their cardio in because – these guys are going to be running downfield on the boundary. They're going to be clearing stuff out for DJ Moore and Dalton Kincaid, right? And hopefully James Cook out of the backfield. A lot of the wind sprint routes for those guys. Those guys are all going to be rotating in behind DJ Moore. So from a fantasy stance, I'm not really glomming onto those guys. The one guy I'm kind of still interested in, and I don't know in managed leagues when we get to August, it's been kind of best ball season for a lot of people, but I'm interested with all the moving parts just to see, we talked about the reduction of James Cook, maybe workload in the run game, what we have for Ray Davis on the table. I mean, this is a guy, even last year, the opportunities he got, he was really effective with. It's just he was really phased out year 2 from year 1. I mean, his touches precipitously dropped. But he is a guy that I think offers a wealth of handcuff values. I think he's capable of taking away some of that rushing volume from James Cook and alleviating him. And then, hey, man, week 17, when we get to the fantasy championships, they play the Miami Dolphins that week. We could see a lot of Ray Davis that week.
They do. That's right. How much are you drafting, Rich? What's been interesting to you so far?
I have been drafting a lot of best balls so far this year, mostly on Underdog. I will start drafting more on DraftKings as I now shift to doing more writing and work because their platform's more conducive to being on PC than mobile or Underdog, is it? But it's been interesting to follow all these trends. Obviously gamers are push running backs up the board this year compared to wide receivers coming off of this historically down wide receiver season. And I would love to zig while everyone's zagging, but when you look at the way the NFL has operated this offseason, I think they're giving us a big signal that they're going to keep swerving into more condensed, heavy sets. We had the NFL record 27 tight ends invited to the NFL Combine this year. 22 tight ends were drafted. It was the most since 2002. And then when you look at the coaching changes across the NFL, we've just seen more additions from the Mick Shanahan coaching tree, land and coordinator head coaching jobs. And we even have teams like the Ravens, Eagles, and Commanders, big signals that they're going to be playing under center more this season than they have in previous years as well. So I see the NFL kind of giving us this signal, like they're going to extend this heavy personnel packages out until the bubble pops.
Until defenses pivot, and then they'll pivot again, maybe until
correct. It's
defenses.
the cat and mouse of the NFL.
Right. Start bigger looks, forcing teams into more spread type stuff. Very good. Thanks as always, Rich. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Enjoy your work. Sharp Football. The Sharp Football preview is out. SharpFootballAnalysis.com. Anything else I need to know?
Nope, that pretty much covers it. Everyone have a great summer. We're looking forward to the NFL season right around the corner.
All right, I'll see you in the draft circles. Thanks, Rich. Rich Rebar, Lord Reeves, even, sharpfootballanalysis.com. The Sabres' schedule is out, 84 games. The fans have been heard. We need more regular season NHL games. And the league listened. We'll talk to Paul Hamilton. Was that too sarcastic? We're happy about games and hockey in general. That's what people say, though. More. Can't help myself. Paul Hamilton next on WGR.
Schedule release day for the NHL, and we did get some nuggets from yesterday. Of course, a reminder that the season is going to open up on the road at Columbus Thursday, October 1st, while the home opener a little bit later on, Saturday, October 3rd against Chicago. This is also now an 84-game regular season, and for more on this, do stay tuned. Paul Hamilton going to join the show next. In the NFL, it was announced yesterday, but we got details today on the restructuring of the contract for Saints running back Alvin Kamara for him to stay with New Orleans. His base salary is going to be $6 million with a chance to make $8.5 million with incentives. And then stay tuned, coming up in about an hour at 5:30. Brian Kosio going to join the show as day one of the British Open has wrapped up at Royal Birkdale. 26-year-old Jackson Suber in his Open debut does hold the solo lead at 5 under. And then an update for baseball tonight. It is still just one game as the Phillies play host to the Mets, but that one is now at 6:10. It was originally scheduled for 7:10. It got moved up an hour due to air quality concerns for later tonight. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off through the week. Paul Hamilton with me, ABBA fan. Who isn't one? Paul, did you know in London there's an ABBA arena?
I did not know that. I've never been over there.
It was in a crossword puzzle this week. I'm like, is there really an ABBA arena? But there is, and I'm sure there's a great story. But it's like actually ABBA, ABBA arena. It's not just random coincidence or anything. It's actually named for them. So have you been to London?
Very quickly, just to get a cruise, which wasn't right there, and very quickly when we got back, and then on the plane and back home.
Did you go to Europe for any of the Sabre games there?
I went to Finland and Germany.
Okay. Which was better?
They both had their moments. I would have liked to have been in Berlin longer, because that was the second. We had back-to-back games. One was in Finland and one was in Germany, and it was back-to-back, which I thought was a little bit silly. So I basically, since Lindy Ruff didn't have a morning skate, I walked around Berlin for an hour or two, and that's all I had time for, and it was the game and to the plane, and home we came.
That's too bad. Is that the more recent trip to Europe or the earlier one? Like when
it was the earlier one.
Leno.
Luke Adam was in that one, as a matter of fact. I don't know why I recall him, but I do.
I think of Leno scoring in one of those games.
And they won both games
Yep.
against the Kings and the Ducks to start the season 2-0, and, of course, didn't make the playoffs.
So this year's 26-27 schedule is out. You wrote on it. What are a couple of the more interesting facets to it for you?
Well, Alex Tuck isn't here till March 18th. So that was the one thing. I don't know if I've ever seen a goofy spot in the schedule like they have early. On October 13th, they're in Montreal. On October 15th, they're in Toronto. And on October 17th, they're back in Montreal.
That is weird.
And that's the only two times they play in Montreal. They'll be done in Montreal on October 17th. And we'll have played them on the 13th and the 17th and never came home in between. They just went to Toronto. I mean, if you're going to do it, just stay in Montreal and play back-to-back. Why leave? You know, play them on the 13th and the 15th and then go to Toronto on the 17th or whatever. Probably, you know, the arenas weren't open or whatever. But I remember them doing that in Toronto once because Lindy Ruff was so mad at the Saturday game in Toronto that he buried them in practice on Sunday, and they had absolutely nothing left on Monday to play in Toronto. And he even said after practice on Sunday, he goes, they won't be able to play tomorrow probably, but I don't care. He goes, they needed this. And he was right.
I guess. Okay, so, yeah, that is strange to be done with the Canadians on the road so early as that as well. The two added games, does it really seem to show itself in any sort of way? I mean, there are 84 instead of 82. I'm not sure they would. Last year we had that Olympic break, and my first takeaway on the schedule was look how busy it is, where they have to cram all those games into spots because they can't use that 2.5 weeks for the Olympics. You don't have that this time.
Yeah, where it shows up is to start the year. They usually don't start on October 1st.
And the league starts earlier than that. They don't play the first night.
So that's where it shows up. Is they're starting earlier. There's only 4 preseason games, so you don't have to wait to watch a team of Rochester Americans play 2 preseason games, because that's what it amounts to. Because it's like, well, we don't want to get our guys hurt, so let's start playing minor league guys or guys we're sending back to junior. That's where it shows right there is how early they're starting the season.
A lot of the Western trips they take always seem to come at the same time. End of October, Western Canada, early December, February off in a month. There's the All-Star break in February where it's like pretty late, where January you might have more road games. Maybe it's a little different. One thing I noticed, too, from late February through March, they play on Sundays on the road 5 weeks in a row. There usually have not been that many Sunday games or Sunday road games, but we'll get in the habit of that February into April.
They used to, like way back when. I mean, Sunday was their day. If they would play the Sunday games, that was one of their days way back when. I don't even know what years we'd be talking about, but it was a while ago.
The 80s, at least.
Definitely. It's interesting, you talked about the California trip at the end of October. Washington's on there too, but it's on the 24th on Saturday. They don't play in San Jose until Tuesday. So I'm thinking, do they come home after Washington and then leave for San Jose on Monday, or do they just go to San Jose from Washington? Or do they spend a day in Washington and practice on Sunday and then roll home after that? So it'll be, interesting to see how they handle that one. Even the Montreal-Toronto thing, how are they going to handle that? Are they going to stay in one town one day later? So that one will be interesting too. But there are a couple of those as I look through where there's a longer trip, but how are they going to handle the length of the trip as far as, well, there's an East Coast game first, and then you go to the Midwest, or you do, I'm trying to look here. Yeah, they're in Winnipeg on the 24th of January, and they don't play Utah till the 27th. Now, I don't know if they're going to come home from Winnipeg, or I don't know if where they're going to hang out, if they just go to Salt Lake City and hang out there. Or because then they got 3 games in 4. It's Utah on Wednesday, Vegas on Thursday, and Colorado on Saturday. You got Boston on a Tuesday and Columbus on a Friday. Do you stay or do you come home? There's more. It seems like there's more of those this year than I've noticed in the past.
One reason why I say how there seem to be similarities based on like sort of the road trip chunks year to year is there's Western Canada, and that's almost identical to last year where the turnaround started. That was what we said, December 9th is when they won in Edmonton. This is December 1st in Edmonton. Like they have that week very close to where they had it last year.
This is the first time in 3 years they haven't, between Christmas and New Year's, gone to Dallas and St. Louis. They've always done that. Now they have a home game against Detroit, and then they're going to Florida on the 30th. They'll spend New Year's either in Fort Lauderdale or Tampa, because then they have Tampa on Saturday, and the Bills actually have a game in Miami on Sunday.
Yes, that's right.
I actually gave that some thought until I saw the Sabres are home against Winnipeg on Monday. I go, I got to get home.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I stopped thinking about that fairly quickly.
Thanksgiving is back. When I was younger and had season tickets, I would love the Wednesday, Friday, Thanksgiving tandem at home, and that hasn't always been there, but it's back this year, Rangers and Penguins. And speaking of the Bills, the Bills game with Kansas City right in between, so that's some weekend.
Yeah, that is. That's 3 in a row. I mean, people that come from out of town, are huge sports fans. They have 3 games they can go to if they want to, or maybe they weren't planning on coming to town, and they just, you know what? Let's go do this. We can go to 2 hockey games. We can go see the Penguins and Sidney Crosby. The Rangers are always a draw. And then go see Bills Chiefs.
Sure.
Rock on. So I think, I think there's some fans who probably wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden AAA or somebody has some trips to Buffalo and 3 games are involved if you go on the trips or things like that. So we'll see how that one goes down.
Talking about the 2 games in Montreal on the schedule, both being on the same week and the 3rd full week of the season, similar is that the 2 Boston home games are both in April.
And remember last October, both games in Boston were in October.
Oh, yeah?
I went to Boston on Saturday, like the first Saturday of October, and I was back in Boston at the end of October. And that's it. You play the Bruins twice, and that was the end of the Bruins until the playoffs. And I hadn't even been there since the end of October. So, yeah, that was. But this one's goofier only because you're going Montreal to Toronto, back to Montreal.
Yeah.
Now I'm deciding, as you know, I like to take the train, which I can still do. But do I do that, or because it's practice and all that, do I get a round trip ticket to Montreal? Go to Toronto, fly to Montreal, fly back to Toronto, fly to Montreal, and fly back to Toronto.
Sounds nuts the way you describe it. You should fly Air Bazaar like Stephen Wright. 2 weeks in England, 1 night in Connecticut, 2 weeks in England.
And the problem with the first game in Montreal on Tuesday is there's a home game in Buffalo on Monday, but it's a 1:00 game.
Martin Luther King Day.
So I could still,
if
I'm doing the train thing, I could still get to Toronto to get the train to Montreal for that Tuesday game.
What is that? Heretofore known as Columbus Day, that October Monday holiday.
Mm-hmm. And the Bills play at the Rams at 8:15 on that.
Oh, they do. That's the Monday night of the Ram game. Interesting. All right. Well, Paul, thanks for making some more time for me.
Oh, no problem. Anytime.
Paul's article is up at WGR550.com. Thanks again.
No problem.
Paul Hamilton's appearance is brought to you by Raylax Honda. Raylax, we got this. Stephen Wright jokes has the, quote, jokes. Has the show ever sounded older than Stephen Wright references? Maybe Stephen Wright still resonates. I'm flying Air Bazaar. 2 weeks in England, 1 night Connecticut, 2 weeks in England. That's not even really that funny, right? I do like the line after that where he says, you leave any Monday, they bring you back the previous Friday. That way you still have the weekend. I'm not trying to, I sound like I'm trying to do Stephen Wright. Well, I guess I am. I'm like quoting him. Close enough. Paul has the piece up at the website, as I mentioned, on the upcoming schedule. 803-0550 for your calls. Been in a lot of places this week. England, Connecticut. Been, into a lot of Bills projection stuff. Rich Rebar today. Ryan Paganetti yesterday talking about the quarterback sneaks. DJ Moore. How high are your hopes? How much of the Bills' chances to finally break through this year depend on DJ Moore? Lines open for your calls as we continue on this Thursday. Bulldog is off. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR. Mike Schopp. Glad to have the Open Championship, although everything's over for the day. Although I am missing World Cup. Saturday, the third-place game. What do we think about there being a third-place game? That is not really our style, is it? A third place. France and England are going to play after all, just to taunt me. The two teams that I needed to win the last 2 days to get to the finals of that survivor pool. France versus England. What's on the line, really, in a third-place game? Anything? I mean, it probably counts in your stats. Individually, France versus England head-to-head. France was the favorite throughout. Loses to Spain Tuesday in the semifinal. And there was some amount of, surprise, shock even, that happened. And if I'm Spain, I just don't want to hear that. They have won 37 games in a row. You want to make me an underdog? Okay. But don't tell me you're shocked and they beat France too, not just this time. A few times in recent years, I believe. Mr. Soccer. So I wouldn't want to hear anybody say they were shocked that I beat France. I mean, I kind of beat everybody. Spain is the favorite on Sunday against Argentina. Do you have a rooting interest that might even extend, believe it or not, possibly beyond a betting interest? I'm kidding. I mean that's really what it's supposed to be. And I kind of want to see Argentina repeat at this point. I don't really have strong emotions about Spain. They knocked out my France. That wasn't my team, but that was my pick in this thing once it got to this week. Whoops. But Messi is a great story. And that comeback yesterday, I would like to think, isn't made about that the refs favor them. I mean, was that game yesterday? England, it seems, and I couldn't really pay attention to it, but as I mentioned yesterday, having watched it play out and people react to it, and then reaction last night and this morning, England just kind of went into a shell, and Argentina burned them. The Messi play, Mr. Soccer, the Messi play to set up the 2-1 goal, and it happened yesterday maybe around this time. I was talking about it. That was just insanely good. He's always on his left foot, but, as an all-time great, you'd think he could do things from the other side, and that play, he takes it down into the right corner and on his right foot serves one right into the box perfectly for the header that breaks the tie and wins the game for Argentina. I like streaks, good or bad. I like droughts to continue especially if they're not ours. I don't need curses. I don't need teams to finally win after decades of not. I kind of like the story that whatever team consistently fails or consistently wins, having no remaining rooting interest in the tournament. Let's see if, in the end of this, Argentina can't repeat. I don't think they were ever really supposed to be able to do it. But, they're in the final. Also, speaking a little bit indirectly of betting, I was looking up those, if you were with us that day or a few days, those 8-team NFL division winner parlays that I made. So I did 4 on my own. It was funny on the air because Bulldog was on a different app, and his payouts were 10% of mine. Eventually, I think he did crack and open up a different account after this madness. And so I'm looking at this one right now, the lowest one on my list here, as in the first one. Division winners in 2026. Bills, Ravens, Jaguars, Chargers. Favorite, second favorite, maybe third. Why is it going cash out suspended right now as I speak? That did just happen. Who's listening to this? Are we on? Bills, Ravens, Jaguars, Chargers. Dallas, that's an upset. Green Bay, a minor upset. Atlanta, and San Francisco. None of those NFC picks are division favorites. That would be who? Philadelphia, Chicago, Tampa, Rams, or Seattle even. So I'm going to need some help on the NFC side. $10. $79,141.32. That's just so funny. please, not even just for the money, just for the fun of it, please get close. One of these 4 of my own, and then I did 10 with my family where we all threw in $10. Just can any of these get close? Bengals, Chargers, Patriots, Titans, Eagles, Bears, Panthers, Niners. $238,409.58. Man, I would love to just get it to December on one of these with a chance. Back after the update, Mike Schopp, WGR.
Schedule release day in the NHL. We do already have our hands on the 84-game season. For more on it, Paul Hamilton does have a piece at our website, WGR550.com. And as a reminder, it was announced yesterday, but the season is going to open on the road at Columbus on Thursday, October 1st, while the home opener is going to be Saturday, October 3rd against Chicago. And then some other NHL news. The Blues do avoid arbitration with forward Connor McMichael, and they signed him to a 6-year deal with an average annual value of $6.75 million. It was announced yesterday, but we did get some of the details today on the restructured contract for Saints running back Alvin Kamara to keep him in New Orleans. The base salary of this one-year deal is $6 million with a chance to make $8.5 million with incentives. Stay tuned. Coming up in a half hour at 5:30, Brian Koziel is going to join the show. Day one of the British Open at Royal Birkdale is wrapped up. 26-year-old Jackson Suber in his Open debut does hold the solo lead at 5 under. And then in baseball, just one game tonight. Phillies play host to the Mets. That game has been moved, though, to 6:10 tonight. It was originally scheduled for 7:10, but it got moved up an hour due to air quality concerns for later tonight. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think Michael's ever done drugs.
It's Mike Schopp.
I don't know if anyone's ever offered him any.
Let's go over some of the symptoms of marijuana use, shall we? You tell me who this sounds like.
It's the Bulldog.
Slow moving, inattentive, dull, constantly snacking. Shows a lack of motivation.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Hi there, welcome back. We're dealing with the difficult air conditions here the last couple of days. Hopefully that takes care of itself here in short order, but it's been a very interesting and weird 36 hours or so. Just the look of it and what it smells like, and just driving by car washes that are closed in the middle of the day in the summer when it's not raining or anything. Not that it would even be closed if it were raining. When do car washes close? Maybe Christmas, but the one I drove by on my way here was closed because I think probably rightly they don't want their employees outside. So interesting couple of days. Mike is on the Wester hotline here with me. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for letting me on today.
Sure.
Talking about the Bills the last couple of days, you guys were doing your power rankings, and a lot of different people had them at number one.
Yeah.
And I'm just not seeing it this year. It's very comparable to the last 5 to 10 years of the Sabres. Seems like there's not a lot of certainty, and we're just hoping on a whole lot of things. We know the quarterback's good, we know the running back's good, and we know the offensive line's good. After that, it's just, we hope Ed Oliver's going to stay healthy. We hope Terrell Bernard's not going to be bad again. We hope the new defense is going to work out. I mean, Christian Benford's a cover 2, Tampa 2 zone guy, and you're telling me now he's going to be good in man? I think that's why he's not nationally ranked high. And I'm just the beginning of the year is really hard. I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy about this year. We hope all the young defensive linemen are going to work out. We hope Bradley Chubb's not washed up. I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing how you guys got to number one. Side point.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago, I called the Saturday show. There's one player on the Bills roster, wide receiver, I don't think is very good. I got a lot of hate for this.
A lot of hate. How did that happen?
Because Khalil Shakir. I think
tell me about this hate. How did that manifest? Did people start knocking on your door? How did they even know it was you?
I'll explain. No, I'll explain. They played a bunch of Khalil Shakir highlights and on the radio, and then talked about it for like 2 minutes afterwards, talking about how I was crazy for saying he's not he's not that good.
No, but I want to know how this manifested in terms of you getting hate in your life. Like, did you give your phone number on the air? How did people even
like hate from the guys is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Guys on the show.
Well, okay. Yeah, you can roll with that, right, Mike?
I've heard you on the radio kind of have the same opinions of Khalil Shakir, so
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up to you.
Well, what do you think?
Kind of a one trick pony. Doesn't really run the greatest routes. He's just weirdly shaped, has a whole lot of heart, and he's hard to tackle. But beyond that, I don't really know what I think he takes snaps away from people like Keon Coleman. And I think if he had the opportunities that Khalil Shakir had, we would have a different tune about Keon Coleman right now.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Here, let me say.
A lot of that had to do with Sean McDermott and Khalil Shakir being a Sean McDermott guy.
Yeah, he probably wasn't late for stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big – but your wide receivers, I mean, they're a little weird. You want your wide receiver to be weird and alpha and run his mouth and just not do weird stuff on Twitter like Diggs. But I don't know. I'm so uneasy about this year. I am. I'm worried we're going to go 1-6 in the new stadium.
1-6, man. You should bet that. Put your heart aside and just find a way to see if you really mean that. You should bet that. I don't know. Where do I start? Thank you, Mike. You gave me some energy here, which I could use. I never want to be critical of Shakir because I don't think it's a fault of the player that I think their offense is capped by his playing the role that he does, much like you do. And when you say you'd rather, like he basically blocks Coleman, I kind of agree with that because I think Coleman, I often will defer to guys like Matt Harmon with this stuff because they really study wide receivers. I let other people do that work, but I know who I feel like I can trust. And Matt, who was never a big Coleman guy, receptionperception.com, Yahoo, like first time we talked to him about Diggs, and Diggs was only for me a player with Minnesota that I just kind of knew about, but I loved Adam Thielen there, and I just didn't really have a strong opinion on Diggs. And the Bills traded for Diggs. And Matt came on this show like maybe the next day and said, he is great. Relax. And he was great. Matt nailed that. And I think most of the time he's going to be right because he's well read on the subject. I think with Coleman, so the Bills drafted Coleman, and we talked to Matt Harmon, and he said he really should play in the slot. He should be big slot. That's what if he's going to make it in the league, that's how he's going to make it. And the Bills didn't give him that opportunity. They wanted him to play outside. They boasted about it when they picked him. Like, that's what they did it for, naturally, because they had Shakir, who they would then pay a nice contract to. Like, he was not getting bumped. So, yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't know if the offense or the team would be better. I mean, Coleman's been erratic, and I don't want to just ignore all of that. And I think it's relevant if he can't show up for things on time. I mean, a coach has got to be a coach. He's got to have some sort of standard. And if it costs him Keon Coleman, so be it. I think that that's reasonable. But I do think in terms of their offense that Shakir limits what they can be. Now, there's so much to say about this, and we've said a lot of it in the last 2 days. I'm sorry our guys on Saturday weren't nicer to you. Maybe you liked it. Sometimes some people thrive on that. But anyway, I thought, like, he's getting hate. What? Did his social security number get mentioned on the air and like people are somehow so incensed about his take that I don't know. So what if the host disagrees with you? Roll with it. Anyway, maybe you liked it. There's so much you can throw into the stew in the conversation about the Bills offense. And I think the most important thing right now is not, far from it, is not Khalil Shakir's presence. That is not really that pivotal in my mind to how this goes. Rich Rebar earlier, and this is vitally important, and this I needed to give more respect to, say, 2 years ago. Not that I could have necessarily predicted the effect of it, but in the last couple of years, it deserved more attention and credit. how defenses were changing. And we certainly did talk about that, but I was sort of stuck on and maybe so were you, not Mike necessarily, but a lot of you, on just let Allen cook, so to speak. And that is sort of intentionally blind to what's happening scheme-wise around the NFL. It happened to Mahomes. It happened here to some extent. Like, you just have defenses changing their ways. And what did the Bills do? To their credit, maybe Kansas City didn't do this. The Bills end up going bigger and trusting Cook and feeding him. And it is 2 and 3 tight ends. Like, they and a fullback at times. Like, they decided to take the chess move being made against them and not play like, well, we've just got the ultimate quarterback and that's all that matters. No, they didn't do that. They changed their ways. And a lot of teams in the league have had to do that, and not all have been so successful. Shakir is not, for me, the most important thing in the mix here. I think he plays like he's been playing, probably. I doubt very much they move Coleman in on his space. Coleman might sooner not play at all than that happen. The big philosophical one is, do they keep, unless teams adjust another way, do they keep going the way they're going in terms of scheme? And that's Cook, and that's 12 and 13 personnel, and whatever else. And if you have Allen, who can convert a couple of third downs and score from the red zone with his legs and do what he can do in the air, no matter who the receivers are, putting up the numbers he puts up, great. You're not going 1 and 6 or whatever he said. Like, I think it's a little dramatic. I know the schedule's tougher. This does not remind me of the Sabres of the last decade at all. Trust the numbers. They're the AFC favorite again. Has that been wrong yet? I mean, have they not every year since that started been like right there? Doesn't have to be that they've never been the 1 seed if you want to get technical, but like they've been worthy of that sort of credit. And I don't see why that has to be different. I'm not scared for them. So I think philosophically, you've got a coordinator, now a head coach, who has experience with, years of it now, how teams have matched up against Allen and what they've tried to do. As far as I know, I think this has to be true or else he wouldn't have been promoted. He and Allen can work together and communicate well. So I'm not worried about that, really. That's not like it would be if it were somebody else. You sort of maybe could ask a question about that. I don't have that question. So you've got almost the same everything with DJ Moore. And I admit to not being the most optimistic about him as an individual player. But you got to think that he can help the whole of it function better if he's on the field. And, Sal and then Rich Rebar just today, Sal points out, remember, DJ Moore never misses a game. Last 5 years, he's played 17 games. And that doesn't have to always be true, but he's been very durable. Say what you want about effort and work ethic and that sort of stuff. There have been questions at times about him in his career. He's on the field every week. So that's a good start. And if he runs, like Rich was talking about with the Bears, what did he say? 86% of snaps, tons of routes, not so much cardio. You have other guys who kind of run the so-called cardio routes where they're almost never getting the ball, but they're keeping the defense honest. You got to cover them. They're running fly routes and Z routes and everything like this. You got to account for that as a defense or else you're busted. He's not that. Hopefully he's above that, but he's on the field all the time and he tests your defense by his presence. That, I think, is what can help. He's better than what they've had. I think that's probably true. I don't really want to draft him because I still think we're going to have a lot of, the running game, and maybe not, we're not going to hear maybe everybody eats anymore like we have somewhat insufferably for a couple of years. I think the Bills may have realized to retire that. Maybe not. We're not there yet. Camp is still almost 2 weeks away, or not even 2 weeks away. So, yeah, I mean, what else can I say? I think points about Shakir, I feel like I was right here yesterday, and I don't want to seem like I'm banging on him because I don't think it's the fault of the player. I don't think there's anything that Shakir should be able to do better. And I also don't think the Bills should need more out of him, like that there should be more of a game plan around him. I don't think that that's really it either. But I do think he sort of limits your ceiling because there's only so much there. And if Coleman had hit, I mean, this could still happen. But if they had drafted Coleman to play that position, and then, you get going and it's all positive. Maybe he doesn't show up late. Maybe he doesn't blow you off. If he feels like people need that in life. They need to feel like they're important. No excuse. I mean, if he's late, he's late. And there are rules and there are standards. But, that can, throughout the history of the Bills, there often are players who are more challenging for coaches, discipline-wise. And, you make some exceptions. You try to figure out ways to get through it and not end up taking it as a total loss. And I think at this point, Coleman is close to a total loss. And if he's not going to play inside, I think it'll be, with Moore here, I think it'll be very tough for him to establish himself in year 3. Unless there's an injury, and then he gets a chance to do that. And then how is it different from the last 2 years? I don't know. Maybe you have better maturity, maybe just sort of like evolves positively, but I kind of doubt it. I don't think smart money is on Coleman at this point. But you know what? It's mid-July, and let's see, tomorrow's the 17th, Monday's the 20th. Somewhere around the 20th, we can start to call it late July. And late July is training camp. And really then, if not already, is really when it's kind of hope season. Even if your team is really good or if it's not, doesn't matter. Like you sort of see the positive outcome on everybody. And I think probably when camp starts, what's going to happen regarding Keon Coleman? He's going to be there. He's going to talk about his having a new focus. And other people in the organization are going to talk about the same thing. And Joe Brady's going to talk about how much he loves him and needs him, because Brady kind of says everything, and he doesn't miss anything. Anything that can be said that makes it look good, he's going to say it, all in one quote. So camp is going to start, and it's going to be all praise. And take that for what it's worth. It's that time of year, though. So I don't want to bury anybody because I feel like it's not time yet to, well, if it ever is, to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think the overall point there is I think certain Shakir criticisms or criticisms of the Bills for the role he plays are valid and can be valid. Some really good stuff the last couple of days from Rich and then from Ryan Paganetti yesterday on the quarterback sneak stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot more there. This guy today, this you got to follow this guy. He's the new big thing. Ryan Paganetti. So if you missed him yesterday, he started with the Eagles, and he was on the headset with the Eagles the year they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. And he had a great story yesterday of the Philly special play, and it was awesome. He said that people knew his name in Philadelphia by then, because it was, I know that too. I didn't know his name, but I know that the Eagles' interest in analytics and how they made game day decisions through a staff of people outside of the head coach, that was well documented. And it was very exciting, I thought. Finally, we've got coaches in the NFL who know enough to not make those decisions themselves, only by themselves. Figure it out. This is when Sean McDermott was just starting, and as we got into knowing Sean McDermott, I'm like, oh, McDermott, he's just another one that thinks like all that should be on him. And I think by the time he left, he had really converted. And he talked openly about it with us, as well as I'm sure with other people, like just, yeah, we're listening, we're preparing for different scenarios. Anyway, so that trended up for the Bills, and I think the results showed it. Ryan Paganetti, so yesterday he's talking about Philly special and how the Bills ran 70 consecutive quarterback sneaks all to the left and different things. I asked him about a tweet he had earlier yesterday, or maybe on Tuesday, about whether data shows that coaches should coach, like play callers, should coach from the field or the booth. And he had this amazing database, 99% accurate, he said, over many years of the differences, the different results, whether the booth is better or on the field, the sideline is better. And he liked the sideline for offense from his research. He liked the sideline for the offensive coordinator because for one reason, there are times when head coach, coordinator, quarterback, even offensive line can have a conversation. And if he's in the coordinator's in the booth, you have to do that on the phone. And like just logically, one is better. It's easier. But for defense, he liked it from the booth. Maybe something about seeing the field was to that coach's benefit. And it's not like you're calling timeouts and bringing the line over and everything, like to have this big decision on a play call or something as often on defense. Here's today's. Well, this goes back to yesterday or last night, but he elaborated on it today. How, I don't want to say trivial like it's bad, how esoteric, how granular can this sort of thing get? NFL research. Did you see this one from him last night? Quote, one of the NFL's funniest traditions is a new coach taking over a team and removing the fun from the locker room. I found 20 reported fun removal cases since 2001. In the offseason, 8 of the 9 teams who did this improved, going from 49 and 96 to 74 and 71. You know, taking out the ping pong table, right? It's always hilarious when we hear that coaches did that. In the offseason, teams got a lot better when their coaches did that. That's the so-called culture change, right? In one direction or the other. Oh, there's no foosball? Let's put in foosball. Let's make playing for this team fun again. Oh, there's foosball and we're bad? Get that out of here. However, when teams did this from Ryan Paganetti in season, 5 improved, 4 declined, and 1 stayed even. The lesson, he writes, if you're a new coach, take away that ping pong table. If you're 3 and 5 in November, removing the distractions may be just another distraction. So that's good enough, right? I mean, here's a guy who's out there digging up 25 years of reports on coaches taking out ping pong tables. And I say that as a high compliment. And then today, he breaks it down. Across the 20 reported NFL fun removal cases since 2001, here are the items teams removed in at least 2 cases. Ping pong table tennis, 12. Basketball hoops, pop-a-shot, 5. Video games and consoles, 4. Dominoes, 4. Dominoes? Pool tables, billiards, 2. Shuffleboard, 2. Shuffleboard. Has an NFL locker room ever sounded older? Cornhole, 2. Card tables, 2. TVs, 2. Stereos, 2. Oh, baby. This is too good. I mean, I sort of stopped at 4th down and 2-point conversions. I felt like I was good. I was good. I said my piece many times toward that. We won the war. Obviously, the league finally bought in, and, it's all for the better. It's weird when somebody punts on 4th and short or kicks a short field goal. Like they don't know anything. They don't have the internet. But this is just cuts levels above. 12 ping pong table removals since 2001. Was Doug Marrone one of those? Did he take out? When have the Bills done this? Marrone maybe? I can't see Marrone putting in fun things, only taking them out. And let's see. Did they get better the year he took over? Maybe a little bit. They were 9-7 the year he left. He had to have that last win to hurt their draft status so he could take the winning record and go home. Day 1 of the Open Championship today. I don't think I had a very good day. Schauffele was looking good, doubled the last, came in over par. I'm not in great shape, but it's day 1. Brian Koziol joins next to help tell me how I did and analyze day 1 of the tournament at Royal Birkdale. Bulldog is off until Monday. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. This is WGR.
dancing so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. Oh, you seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
At Royal Birkdale is in the books, and while it is a tightly compacted leaderboard, there is just one guy with the solo lead. That is Jackson Suber, the 26-year-old making his Open debut. He leads the way at 5 under. Do stay tuned. Brian Koziel is going to join the show next for the latest on what we saw from day one. In the NHL, it was scheduled release day. We did get some nuggets yesterday on this 84-game schedule. Paul Hamilton, though, has a piece on our website, WGR550.com, for the entirety of the schedule. But a reminder, the season is going to open on the road at Columbus on Thursday, October 1st, while the home opener will be Saturday, October 3rd against Chicago. And then the Blues. Earlier today, they avoid arbitration with forward Connor McMichael, signing him to a 6-year deal with an average annual value of $6.75 million. And then in baseball, coming up now in just about a half hour or so, it's just one game tonight as the league does get back underway. The Phillies play host to the Mets. That game is now at 6:10 due to air quality concerns for later tonight. It was scheduled originally for 7:10, but got moved up an hour. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Yeah, I'd only played 27 holes of links golf before teeing off today, and definitely settled in on the back nine. But it's really cool, and it's so different, and just having to really think about, okay, this bunker at 320s and play with the 4-iron is a little different. So trying to figure that out, but enjoying it.
What is this heresy? I've played more than 27 holes of links golf. That is the Open Championship leader, Jackson Suber. It's just that easy, Brian. Apparently, who knew the key to it was to never practice on these courses? Jackson Suber. I texted Brian earlier today, Brian Koziel on the Western Hotline, who I might have to ask you, who is Jackson Suber? But I wrote Huber. And well, there's no way he's going to know who that is. That's just weird and confusing. Did you already know, Brian, to put you on the spot, who this player was before today?
So I know that he is a professional golfer, and I'll probably stop there if I'm being completely honest.
So if we had a game where it was, is this person a pro golfer or not, and I had said Jackson Suber, you would have guessed yes.
Yes. However, had you said Jackson Huber, you might have tricked me into also saying yes. I didn't know that you said Huber until you just said it right now. I didn't even notice it.
Yeah. Well, you know your Jacksons. You're a Jackson guy, so.
That's right.
Well, how astonishing is it? I mean, is it a fluke? Is it just one good day or what?
Yeah, I mean, his comment makes it a little bit more astonishing. The fact that, the experience factor at this tournament is one that statistically has said that you need it. I saw a stat this week, maybe I even said it with you when we were previewing it on Wednesday, that the amount of experience at the Open is the most needed one in terms of the time that they win the championship, that the U.S. Open is the one where you need the least amount of experience. I think it was 21 majors is the average number of majors participated in before they won a U.S. Open, and then the highest is the Open. It's in I think around 38 majors. So now again, that means all 4 majors. It doesn't mean necessarily links golf. So I guess there's some wiggle room on that stat, but experience is usually what you see with a lot of American golfers that struggle, that come over here right away. We've talked about it with DeChambeau. He had a good day, by the way.
Yeah.
We saw it with Mickelson forever, a guy that won everywhere, but couldn't figure out links golf, finally did towards the end of his career. But some guys just never adjust to it, and it creates obviously a problem for some of these guys because they just don't know how to adjust their game. So kudos for him. He's ranked 113th in the world right now. He's had 3 top 10s this year, but no wins on the PGA Tour. So in terms of statistically and his experience being essentially 0, this is an astonishing start. If it were to keep going, I would probably argue that it's not going to keep going. He's got to do it for 3 more days.
Yeah, I'm not regretting not picking him. There aren't many guys I'm regretting not picking, or even that I'm regretting having picked. McIlroy had a rough day, and I felt somewhat vindicated about that. Not like, I knew that would happen. But he does birdie 18, which I think is the hardest hole out there, to get to +2. And after watching Schauffele in his group really kind of have a pretty smooth round and then double the last and get to +1, really tells you how it goes with golf. One guy I think was in his head all day. McIlroy missed a lot of easy ones, or short ones anyway. And Schauffele had a pretty easy time of it, and yet they come in 1 shot apart.
Yeah, that's probably as you said, discouraging to Shoffley and encouraging to McElroy to realize, hey, this guy outplayed me all day. And in the end here, he's only one better. McElroy, as you said, I mean, if was going to break down his round in terms of maybe some of the struggles, definitely the short misses. He missed a handful of them, if not more, that you'd consider to be makeable putts. Some of them to save par, some of them to make birdie that just wouldn't go in for him. 17, he had an interesting shot for those that haven't maybe watched any coverage today. He hitting a bunker shot with one knee on the ground. It ends up being a very, very good shot out of it, but that's probably his highlight shot of the day. Being able to get out of that bunker on 17. And then, as you mentioned, a real strong finish on 18 to get himself at least thinking, okay, I still have to play well tomorrow to play the weekend, but it's not like he buried himself. That was at least a decent finish for him.
Right. I'm not sure it's easy to decide what the story of the day is. I mean, the guy in first place is a story, but it seems like probably a one-off. We'll see. I mean, that doesn't always happen that way. But, McElroy, okay. Scheffler, Schauffele, Matt Fitzpatrick was in the group with McElroy. He just seems perpetually miserable. But, didn't 2 over. Right now, that's below the cut line, but didn't play his way out of it or anything like that. I mean, any of these guys like that who are major champions have to be taken seriously going into tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And then you've got some major champions that are under par that are right there, too. Morikawa, I thought, had a good day, 2 under. Rahm, 1 under. He's also in contention. Lowry, 1 under. We know he has won this tournament before. Maybe the story of the day, if you're looking for star power, is that DeChambeau had a good day, because we had talked about his struggles in majors, that he essentially was being mocked on social media for going for the Bryson Slam. In other words, missing all 4 cuts at all 4 majors. The only events now that we really see DeChambeau with any sort of value, because we know he plays on LIV, and he missed the cut at the Masters and the PGA and the U.S. Open. So, this is heading down the path of a failed season for him, maybe his worst one ever. If you go miss 4 cuts in all 4 majors, especially, when you go LIV, what are you going to be known for here? What is deemed to be a successful season? Well, you got to play well in the majors at least, and at least he's set himself up now for having a chance to be in this event in terms of maybe winning it at the end here. -3, played really within himself. He wasn't all over the place. There wasn't these crazy scenes where we've seen him in the past where he's all over the golf course. I thought he played a nice controlled game today on a course that we need to. We talked about accuracy yesterday.
Brian, can I just confide this in you? I'm not sure if we're on the air right now. Probably we are. The light's on. But I watched, say, 3 hours of this tournament this morning. Increasingly, I just can't see the ball. Like these big wide greens and the brown leading up to it, and I'm looking at it. I'm on my TV. I don't know if I need to change my setup, but too often I just cannot see the ball. Like they show. I'm watching the golf shot. Of course, then the camera pivots to the ball in the air, maybe, or just a shot from behind the green, waiting for it to land and come in. And maybe it's a little bit. Can I get away with blaming the broadcast a little bit if they're not like right aware where it is and zoom in on it? But I don't know. Like it felt like half the shots, I just had no idea, at least for a minute, like where the ball was. Is that bad? Is that a bad sign for me?
No, I don't. And maybe I'm not saying that has changed, but I know in the past, in terms of the broadcast at the Open, it's been, I don't want to say less, but it had less capabilities because of the fact that back in the day of traveling all their equipment and all the stuff that they would do for golf broadcasts, which obviously requires a lot because you're covering acres and acres of area, that, what is it now here? This is NBC's conglomerate that has the Golf of the USA, right? Yes. Like, what are they bringing over to cover this event that maybe if it's in the United States, do they have more bodies? Do they have more equipment? I don't know. So maybe some of the angles you're seeing are maybe not the one that they would want solely. Mm-hmm. There also could be different rules too. Maybe the RNA doesn't allow, maybe as many drones, or maybe they're not allowing as many exact from behind where they can put the shot tracer up as easily maybe as they can in some of these PGA Tour events normally in the States.
The favorite remains Scotty
There you go.
Scheffler.
There's your bailout.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you're younger than me, but it's not like by so much where I couldn't try that on you. I'll say that anyway. Scotty Scheffler plus 450. That's shorter odds than he had going in. -2 today. He might have bogeyed near the end because I think I saw him at 3 under. Then Cameron Young, who had a good day. I mean, he's somebody that one could have picked in this thing, but I guess maybe he wasn't in the best form coming in. DeChambeau, McIntyre, who I have, and Morikawa, another guy that, has won a lot and would have been a reasonable pick in our contest, but I left him out. So McIntyre, I guess, well, Scheffler, of course, but McIntyre is the one that would be the best for me to have win. And so far, so good, -3.
Yeah, he had a good day, and we've talked about his ability to play this area well. I mean, a pretty clean card for McIntyre. Only one bogey. That's his only blemish in there along the way. So he's definitely in a great spot coming into tomorrow. I thought Scheffler was on pace to run away with it. I actually texted Jeff Blank from Tee to Green, part of our crew, and then I realized it was 6:20 a.m. when I did this. I said, Scheffler's going to run away with this. And then I'm like, he's probably sleeping right now. But he was watching. But he had made 4 birdies in his first 6 holes and had gotten to a solo lead. And his proximity to the hole, which we have been talking about, which maybe has been a little off this year, was so good early. Every single one of his approach shots in the first 6 holes was inside 20 feet. So he was giving himself really, really good opportunities. Then he made a bogey on 7, and then he bogeyed 17, as you mentioned, right at the end. But if I'm picking the winner based upon round 1, picking Scheffler before the tournament's a safe bet. I think probably the odds reflect that. I think I would only strengthen that. I think I'd make a stronger argument for Scheffler just because the guys at 5 and 4 under are unproven. Im is a guy that's been around for a while, but he never seems to be able to finish. And there's some unproven names in there in between. So I'd probably put Scheffler as high as I would pre-tournament, if not better.
Jason Day is rooting for Im because he's thinking finally somebody will stop talking about my shirts if Im has a week because he has a fun fashion sense. Scheffler bogeyed 17. That's a par 5, easiest hole out there maybe, and that was a little bit weird to see. Patrick Harrington is not going to win this tournament. I think I might feel a little guilty for proposing to you that, all I said was I'm going to do it. I ended up doing a $5 bonus bet on Harrington, so not even real money, at plus 100,000. There's something I didn't know. He was never likely to win the tournament, but, he's been playing really well. He's won this tournament at that golf course. Dead last didn't seem likely, but that's what happened. He's the only player that I saw who shot 80.
Yeah, because the guy in front of him plus 9. Yep, they're all done for today. So yep, he's officially 156 out of 156.
Wow.
And I did follow you, but you made a convincing argument, so I'm not upset about it. I'm okay with it.
Convincing argument. Yes.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. I mean,
I liked it.
The trying to find these I know I texted you earlier in the day. I'm like, Molinari would have been maybe one of those other ones that probably had massive odds, and he's sitting there now tied for 4th. And I'm thinking hey, here's a guy who's won an Open that maybe knows how to get around a golf course like this maybe, and doesn't have to worry about the fact that maybe he's 20 yards shorter off the tee than all of the other younger players at this point.
That's how he won there. He was never a bomber, Harrington. I mean, he hit the ball far enough, but I mean, I got 105 guys at plus 2 or better. I couldn't even get a 72 out of Harrington. Anyway, just to make it interesting for another day.
Just a little, I know.
Just try. Let's try next year. All right. Before you go, how much of it did you watch? Were there any particular aesthetic takeaways you had today? It's very brown, this place.
Yeah, it's been dry. We knew that coming in, and it looks like it's going to stay that way. I think through the remaining 3 rounds on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that it's going to be 70s and dry, which again is odd. Usually, at some point, these courses because of their location and proximity to the water, that they do get some change in weather, but they're not predicting any of that at all.
Boring.
It looks like yeah, I know. It looks like a great spectating course. From what I've seen, that there's just those natural mounds, kind of carving through the holes that they have in between the holes that are perfect to spectate from when you'd be standing there. So
yep.
I don't know. I've always wanted to go to the Open and haven't figured out a way to organize it yet. I've gone to a whole bunch of U.S. Opens and PGAs and won Masters, but I've never made it to the Open, and it's got to be on my list. I feel like when it's at St. Andrews is the one that I should go to because that's like,
next year.
They say.
Next year.
Yeah, the home of golf. So maybe I'll have to figure out a way to do it. But the only thing I can say in terms of like going is I know Kevin Sylvester from Tee to Green has been Kevin was working the Scottish Open last week, so he has said that the crowds are something that you would appreciate. He said, like, just in terms of their support, he said they're very polite, they're very supportive, they're very encouraging. He says it's a different atmosphere than maybe what you get on the U.S. side. And this is not taking a shot at the U.S. crowd.
Go ahead, though. I'll do it.
A different style. We were talking about the crowds with the U.S. Open, right? That was the biggest maybe story coming out of.
It was awful. Imagine how much more enjoyable this tournament would be if fans randomly yelled out lamb chops after tee shots. Like really, it's glaringly obvious how much more fun this would be to watch if we didn't have Baba Booey. We had Baba Booey every 20 minutes. Tournament's really suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say it.
No, I think you and I would really probably like that if we were going to be, out there and kind of just hearing that from the crowd. I think that's something that we would like. I think.
Sure.
I get annoyed with the smashed potatoes and all that stuff right away. Yeah, but as to quote you, maybe the show is not sounding so old as you say, or however you phrase it. I don't know. Maybe
it is. I'm a curmudgeon. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Brian. We'll talk tomorrow if you have the time.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks. Mike.
By 4 o'clock, I think USA was done with it. 9 o'clock in England. I mean, show's over for the day. If you want to get up at 2 in the morning, you can watch it. But really, by the time tomorrow, I'll be talking to Mike Dempsey at 4, and the golf will probably be done by then, or almost. Anyway, maybe the coverage at least. Mike Schopp here, no Bulldog until Monday. He's expected back then. This is WGR. Talking to Rich today, Rich Rebar, Mike Dempsey tomorrow, mixing a little bit, just, not trying to be too obvious, mixing a little bit of fantasy in. I was talking to Matt Collar yesterday on his Purple Insider show, and I am on with him weekly during the season from a fantasy viewpoint, and I said something like this to him, like, I don't know, it's still trying to get away with it a little bit. I don't want to ever make it too obvious. I mean, obvious sometimes if it is, it is, but he's like, man, it's time. Go for it. My idea of like when the fantasy lines are drawn by the calendar or something are kind of just blurred or just obliterated at this point because for me it's year round. I mean, the ADP chasing show is like literally every Tuesday all year. So we're always talking about drafts, even when it's snowing out. But Matt's like, he gave me the support I needed, the emotional support I needed. He's like, well, I mean, you're my guy here, but I'm starting to get ready for fantasy drafts, so you definitely should be talking about it. So, and here is a week without Bulldog, who finds it generally really annoying. And I haven't exactly pounced on the opportunity. But Mike, who's in Jacksonville, he's been on with us a lot. Well, we always try to do both with any of these guests, not just make it only about draft strategy, but like, what do you expect this year? And I'm pretty high on the Jaguars, and I'm sure Mike is too. So we'll spend some time on them tomorrow and then also get a little fantasy stuff in and out of that conversation. Next, my chat with Sal, 716 Day, Bills versus Sabres, and more next.